frustrated is not even the right word.
Mhm.
I would call it a pretty severe clinical depression.
Okay.
Anxiety, just self-esteem down in the dumps and blaming myself, asking myself, what's wrong with me? Why am I so reject worthy? What am I not enough of? Not smart enough, not pretty enough, not educated enough, not responsible, and I kept going down the list, and this was my rehearsal. And it was bad. I spent a lot of time crying to the point that my eyes were puffy and sore, and I was alone a lot of the time and isolating a lot. If anybody knows the symptoms of clinical depression, I hit everything but suicidality, literally.
Fair enough. So when you're going through that, like just so people can kind of maybe relate to like your day, like what was like a day like? Were you spending a lot of time sleeping? Like were you just finding like a lot of your day was just kind of just disappearing? Did you just kind of like almost like escapism of sorts? Like I mean, how much? What was it, how about this? This is a better way of asking it. What was it keeping you from doing? Like you're in school, right? You're in school at the time. I mean, you're in school now. Like you have a job.
That's the
How
only
was your
thing.
life?
That's the one thing that kept me
Hmm.
is school, because it involves switching to my logical brain,
Hmm.
and it involves executing, and just really, really thinking, and just using the mind. And whenever I was done with anything school related, I went to negative emotion.
Hmm.
But how is it affecting me on a day-to-day basis? Um, so I started like going on Tinder and Bumble a lot and dating, and finding myself dating way too many people,
Hmm.
and comparing them to what I thought I'd lost, and idealizing, the other person, and thinking that, not thinking, feeling, believing that I was not worthy, because I felt that if somebody had basically thrown me away, that
Hmm.
I was the kind of person that's worth throwing away. So it was like that. And my days, other than school, were spent pretty much like either out on a date, um, acting happy, and then coming home and crying. Like even on the drive home, just crying on the drive home. Like that sucked. That was the most empty fucking thing ever. Why did I do that?
Hmm.
Only to repeat that cycle again. Um, and then, oh, I did maintain, I always went to the gym. I always went to the gym, based on the false belief again that there was something physically insufficient about me, that if only I got tighter here, better there. Um, that did help for like an hour, but I spent a lot of my time just either doing school or at home,
Hmm.
and crying. Literally, that's like a horrible existence. And especially because I'm new to the state and I don't have connections here, and given the fact that I don't have, except, well, my family is actually this. Well, my mother and father are deceased, but they were living in Bulgaria anyway, so I didn't have them around. Um, and I have one sister who lives in California, and I have one son who lives in Maine,
Hmm.
and that is my family. And when I moved to North Carolina, which is where I am now, from California, in order to be with the person that dumped me, um, I found myself alone. I moved in the middle of COVID. I moved, in the middle of COVID. So there was the breakup, there was the social isolation that everyone can relate to, whether or not you're going through a break or whatever the fuck. But it was hard. It was really, really hard.
How long did you endure that kind of cycle for before you and I connected? Like how I mean how what was the duration of like how many months or whatever it was before you were dealing with that before you and I connected? Like how long did you have to deal with that for before you just find we you and I finally
With this last person specifically,
yeah.
um, things started going to shit about mm, about April.
About April.
May, Mayish, May. So May, June, July, August. Well, I met you in November. In fact, you and I started, I remember the date because you said mark this date, which was November 18th. So
Mm.
May, June, July, August, September, October. So for 7 months, I hung in there, not knowing what am I doing? Am I moving back to California? Is this some kind of divine? And am I supposed to be here and stay
Mhm.
here?
So
Come on.
that's 7 months pretty challenging to say the least.
I mean, we've all had challenging relationships and breakups and things like that, but you know how like they say that your first love, especially like the high school one, and when that ends, that's like the worst. No,
Yeah.
this one was just because how the various factors that came together, especially me doing something very high risk, something very vulnerable, which is to leave my life behind
Hmm.
based on promises.
Gotcha. So if you look back on your life, Bonnie, like how long would you say how long would you say you struggled in the relationship area of your life? Or how long was relationships not as pleasant or easy as you'd like them to be?
You mean romantic?
You're romantic, yep, yep.
They were never easy. My first boyfriend was when I was 14,
Yeah.
and I was married once when I was 21 and was out of there by age 23
Mhm.
and was kind of on my own. And but I mean, I've been in and out of relationships, of course. Yeah, raised my son, was a single mom, and yeah. So I mean, that's not all been horrible, but the fact that nobody's stuck means
Yeah, yeah,
that ultimately, but I mean, certainly there's been good times and bad times.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then fast forward. So you and I connect on November 18th. So okay, so now what's I think it'd be really interesting for people is that you're studying psychology, you have a science background, and then here you meet me. So um, how did you in any way struggle with the idea that what you and I were going to do was going to be maybe a little different in some ways? Obviously some
Well,
ways,
yeah,
how
yeah.
like how did that how with all the background, the science, you're studying to become a psychologist. How did that impact your you know
I know exactly what
what
you're
you
saying, and
think?
I'll just answer that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you and I align on a lot, but there was one thing I didn't. There's two things that at first I didn't align on,
yeah.
and but I'm somebody who likes to challenge my beliefs. I
Sure.
really believe something that you taught me is that your belief system determines your
Hmm.
reality, right? And so, what you and I aligned on, and I knew this from the beginning, was that brain cells are neurons that fire together, wire together, to put it in very simple terms.
Yep.
I had learned that in countless classes in various formats through various lenses. I believe that, um, the I didn't know until I met you that this also applied to emotional life. And then the other area, what the area of divergence is, okay, so most of psychology, or very much of it, is either psychophysiology right now, like what I was just talking about, or cognitive behavioral, or some kind of like meditation combo, which is that I believe, by the way.
Mhm.
But I personally had taken an interest in something called attachment theory, which is super prevalent, and most people that study psychology like
Mhm.
know it, right? And so I thought that all the reasons I was suffering, the reason I was in pain, the reason I was in mourning and grieving and blah blah blah, was because I formed this fundamental attachment that was rooted in my childhood. And by the way, a lot of my orientation was all about the freaking childhood,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there because it doesn't matter. That's one of the things we learned. And all my life, all my whether it was formal, informal, or, in school or with friends, everyone seems to believe that if you cry it out, if you scream it out, if you talk it out, whatever,
Mhm.
it'll lessen. And so everyone was like, just give it time, just cry. And it would be like, the more I cried, the more I cried. Just write it out. The more I wrote it out, the worse I fucking felt. And so hence you and I have this particular discussion once.
November 18th, yes.
No, it was like one of our calls.
Oh, before that. Sorry, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And you taught me something very, very different, and that made a huge difference. And I can go into it now or not at all. It's up to you. I don't want to give away I don't want to give it all away.
I can always edit it, so don't worry. But yeah, I get the point. Yeah. So question then. This is kind of going fast forward real quick here, but so how do you feel about attachment theory now?
No, nope, just no. Yes, the very fundamentals, babies attach. This is okay. I don't want to get too complex,
Sure.
but
But
basically,
the idea that you could be like truly codependent on another person, like you need them to live and breathe. And how do you feel about the idea of that now at this point? That kind
I
of
think nobody believes that
yeah.
that's a good thing, but I was making excuses for myself that it has to do with sort of like insecure attachment style or insecure avoidant or whatever, ambivalent. I thought it all had to do with my like attachment style based on my early childhood experiences. And people buy into that, and that forms their belief system, and then they act that out. And it absolutely doesn't have to be that way if you choose not to.
So,
And
okay.
an amazing discovery is there's actually fucking choice. So you can choose to affect your biology. Your
Mm-hmm.
biology doesn't have to determine anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually switch it around.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel victim to their biology, especially their psychological imprints or whatever. It's not a really popular, belief. Well, it is kind of popular. It depends who you ask, There's like so many branches of psychology. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, does that
Okay.
answer your question?
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's good. So okay. So you and I connected on the phone. We spoke a little bit. What made you decide ultimately that you were going to kind of roll the dice with me, so to speak? What made you believe like that this was the path for you? Like what was it about our conversation that just made you decide to take a leap of sorts?
It was a combination of what you said, what I felt,
Mm-hmm.
logic, and did I say intuition yet? So first of all, you promised me that you're 1,000% in. You didn't use the word 100. You said 1,000% in, and that you'd be there every step of the way, and that it was you actually took responsibility for my success, which I thought, wow, that is big. That's a big promise. And I wouldn't believe somebody. I'd be like, you're full of fucking shit.
I can appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, like normally I wouldn't believe somebody. And yet, because I'm also very an intuitive based person, and
Mm-hmm.
I just follow my gut, my instinct, whatever. I knew that you're for real. I don't know why,
Mm-hmm.
but then there was the logic, right? So there was that video where you kind of went through the whole list, like, well, how's psychotherapy working out for you? How long you've been doing that? Do you feel any better? And how's meditation alone working out for you? And how's yoga working out for you? And how's, and you went through like this whole list, and that was a logical component, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what else did I say? So I don't know. I knew. It's like a knowingness. And which is really weird probably to hear from like a sciencey person, but I'm also very intuition and spiritually based.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say spiritually, not religiously.
Yep.
And so I think that if something is true, at least for me, I have this deep knowingness about it if something is true. And I knew that what you were offering, I was going to be 100% in.
Awesome. Perfect. And this next question is, so now let's get to the program itself. So now you started me, right? Now I think it's really important for people to know, I told you from the beginning, and I tell everyone this all the time, this is not a magic trick. It is hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people when I structure the program, we have, as you know, we had the formalized Q&A, so we're once a week. And I didn't promise you anything else. That's not a promise. It's formalized, but I let you know I'll just do what I got to do. But you and I had a lot of conversations offline during the weeks, many weeks, and you had a lot, and you definitely had a few challenges along the way, probably a good 3 good ones where we had to really work together to get you, over that hump. And a lot of it really came down to like telling you, and I know I know it kind of sounds like we had to take faith, but it's like, listen, if you do this, you'll get there. And I'm happy to be here to push you to make sure you do it. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of asking people to embrace those cycles of challenges. That if you'll do it, just like a workout, you will reach that next level. It is that extra repetition, that extra bit of work you do that actually facilitates your body, your brain, which are survival mechanisms, to grow and respond. And of course, when someone's lived a certain way for so many years, it's hard to take me at face value and trust me. That's why it's also good when you're in the group, because you can see other people doing it too. But of course, it's not the same when it's your personal experience and you're like, it's like, I'm still a random guy to you. I'm still somewhat new to you. So for you to just totally take me at faith, at face value is a little challenging. But the bottom line now, I want, if you could, maybe just give a quick synopsis, like maybe a 2-minute synopsis of letting people know this was not an easy program. We did have some challenges along the way. It was not a magic trick. And you and I had to work together. We probably had 3 good little humps we had to work over to get you to finally where you are today. And I always want to make sure people is clear. I try the best I can to overmanage expectations. Like I probably told you on our call, this is not a magic trick. It is hard fucking work. That's why if you give me your 100%, I will give you my 1,000%. Take full responsibility. Do what I ask you to do. I'll make sure everything's very black and white. But make no mistake, regardless, is absolutely a co-creation. I will take you to the gym, but at the end of the day, you're the one who has to put that effort. And you did. But with that said, you and I did have, you did have some probably 3 good distinct periods during the program where you're doing really good. And then you kind of reach like what you thought was a plateau. I always knew it was never a plateau, but it was just like understanding. It's like, dude, it's hard work. You lived a certain way for so many years. Of course, it's gonna be a little challenging. So maybe just a quick 2-minute synopsis of what your experience was, letting people know this was not easy. This is for serious people, understanding like, I'm not talking to death. I'm literally giving you a process and you're doing it every day. So
your question is, what were my challenges, or just
the question is, let people know, like, how would you describe in like 2 minutes how your experience was that it was not easy? Like making people understand very clearly, you got a great outcome, but it was hard. I want people to know, like, not a magic trick here, like hard work. So how would you describe like the effort you had to make in the program? The effort, the consistency, the discipline, like what was required?
So you give an analogy often. It's like baking a cake, and you have to follow instructions exactly. And if you don't follow the instructions exactly, the recipe,
right,
that might turn up like a disaster and disgusting. You have to spit it out of your mouth. And I do think that is an awesome analogy, because that's kind of what happened. There is the part of what you do, and then there's a part of what you don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And I am I'm very good at the doing, and I had challenges with the not doing, if you will, right? And both are vital. And so it is hard work. There is actually a very, very significant doing. It's not like you're just thinking a certain way. There is a doing component to this program, and it is daily and it is intensive. Not only is there, I don't want to give it away. Not only is there this particular thing you got to do, there's like a bunch of particular things you got to do. And if you, it was like instant karma. Have you heard of it? Yeah, it was like instant. When I did not follow the recipe, I suffered. I went back to sadness. Now, luckily, you taught me about how to get out of that pretty fast through the emotional ladder. But basically, if it didn't work, it was because, and it always worked, no matter what, it always worked. But if I had a setback, it was due to non-compliance on my part.
Non-compliance, great choice of words.
And you never left. I thought you'd leave because my programming. I thought that if Bonnie fucks up, someone's going to leave, but you continue to be there 1,000% of the time, just like you said. And you said it's a co-creation. And even when I wasn't all the way there co-creating with you, you still were there. And yeah, you gave me some really, you said, if I do what I do, what you told me to do, I'm just going to go right back. And I did. and I came back stronger. I came back stronger. And it's very similar, like how you said that there's another analogy you give at the gym, right?
Mhm.
You work out that muscle and you expect the results not while you're actually freaking lifting the weights. That would be ridiculous. But like 2, 3, 4 days, your muscles start repairing. But like 2 months later, you're like, oh damn,
Mhm.
something's like I can visually tell, or I can tell on the scale or whatever. And that's kind of how it worked with your program. Focus on happiness. That was more than 2 minutes, my bad.
Awesome. So how about this one? It was hard, but were the instructions simple and easy to follow? Like, was it
Oh,
very
fuck yeah.
clear? Like,
Ah,
like
uh,
people
no
like
brainer.
no brainer, like very black. Like I tell people, like I will put in front of you the first 24 hours. You're part of the co-creation. Just follow
Yes,
the instructions. You'll do great. Was it
no
everything
brainer.
simple and easy to, at least simple and straightforward?
100%. There's nothing confusing about it. It's just, are you
Yeah,
willing just to trust the process and do it, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Are you willing, or are you just gonna go, yeah, but, you can have the yeah buts.
Hmm.
And are you willing to, I never want to advise people to suspend reason or to blind faith. I'm not an advocate of that, but I am an advocate of, if you're going to make this decision, be all in, and I mean all in. Just do it, do or don't.
Hmm.
Don't try, do or don't. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Wonderful. Okay, perfect. So we made it through. We did the 6 weeks. We had some challenges along the way, and I think just to kind of add context to what you said before, I was always happy to be there. The only thing I always ask people is like, don't ask me to repeat myself. If we have a conversation, and I'm happy to kind of realign you, right? But I always ask, like, don't have me have a million conversations. I have to keep repeating myself over and over. Ultimately, you got to do the work. But as long as the person, they're trying, I'm okay if someone has like a little blip along. That's not a problem. But don't ask me to repeat a million times. Like, there's only so many times I'm getting a call 11 o'clock at night to repeat the same thing over and over. But yeah, but here we are, fast forwarded. Um, how would you how would you compare yourself? How do you feel about your life, your relationship, how would you compare where you're at now versus how you were just 6 weeks ago?
Um, it's hard to believe.
That's a good way of putting it.
It's like a freaking miracle. And I know it's not a miracle because I worked for it, but you said what I thought was ridiculous. You said there'd be a Bonnie 5.0,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like that, like different person.
Hmm.
I don't have any of that shit going on anymore. There isn't crying. There isn't a waste of time. Uh, I mean, there's a really long, I mean, I could, things are, everything you promised has come to fruition, and more and more, things I didn't expect.
So how do you feel about your life now going forward? How do you feel about the future?
Um, it's just gonna it's great right now, and it's just gonna keep getting better and better.
How do you feel about your ability to trust in the future? Like with people, romantic partners, how do you feel now your ability to be in control? Like no
So
matter what,
here's,
you're good either way.
yeah. So here's the cool thing. One of the things that you taught me is that I have the ability to be completely vulnerable,
Hmm.
stop the stupid game playing shit that I thought was really important because that
Hmm.
everyone teaches on YouTube, and still, in the midst of my vulnerability, whatever happens, I'm good.
Hmm.
And there doesn't have to be like this guard. I know who I am. I know who I am, and I'm going to be fine. And I am fine.
Hmm.
And it's tremendous freedom to be able to let my guard down, but also know exactly what I want, what I don't want, what I accept, what I won't accept. But the ability to be vulnerable but clear, and to have grown so much in my ability to communicate with other people, but also my own inner dialogue,
Hmm.
has created tremendous freedom and, frankly, mental health. and physical health.
Yeah,
I look better.
this is true.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So now, looking back at all that stuff, can you kind of appreciate where a lot of the concepts, in psychology you're learning, you kind of lived them in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, you took that stuff, but you made it more actionable, specifically actionable. So it's like now, like you said, your mental health has shifted because you're actually able to do those things. Now your mental health has shifted. Your physical health has shifted. You're able to be more open, because I know psychology does not advocate trying to manipulate people. It's like, do this, do that. They actually try to get you to be open, honest, forthcoming, vulnerable. The problem is, in classic psychology, it's not addressing that conditioning component, so it makes it very hard to execute. But now you can execute it. So now you're able to do those things because you addressed at the core, which is your emotional conditioning. So it must be pretty cool to actually be able to do those things that you've learned for so long without that emotional block in the way.
Well, one thing that is a huge difference is the element of fear. I think the reason people can't execute is because there's a fear of vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
and that the fear is, again, I don't want to give it away, but it's complete bullshit.
Perfect.
You
That's
don't
wonderful.
you don't need it,
Yeah.
and you can be much more fully human, much more fully human, much more fully compassionate and loving, and trading expectations for appreciation.
There you go.
46 years old, almost 47 years old, and I've been doing self-help stuff like all my life since age 10, believe it, thereabouts. The conventional way, I think for me, if I had gone the conventional way, I would have died still feeling the same way. I mean, of course, there's cycles, right? I would have eventually gotten out of it, but there would have always been this underlying component of what I've always dealt with and what I've always worked on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's behind me now. And with regard to, well, who's this guy Lance versus all these other ads, it is different. You and what you teach is like nothing. And I've done a lot of stuff. I really have. I really have. And the other stuff lasts for whatever. It lasts for a month. It lasts for 4 months, 6 months, if we're lucky, a year. But then the same old shit happens, And I have never heard, I've heard bits and pieces of bits and pieces of bits and pieces of what you teach.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't like accomplish what's just happened. So to anybody who's like scrolling, let's say you're scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, whatever, I would say yes. I would say go all in. Just do it. Just do it. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. You cannot do what you teach and not win massively. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to like not do what you teach to not get a benefit. I mean, I've never been one to say I guarantee it, but I guarantee it. You can't not succeed doing this if you put in the effort.
Mm-hmm. That's
By succeed, it means different things to different people. I think in this program, it's very much relationship based, right?
Mm-hmm.
And succeed means different things to different people. But how do I say? I don't even know exactly what I'm trying to say here. The suffering will be either significantly diminished, but most likely gone.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have a hard time believing that right now, but because it's been going on for so long, or because you think like your situation is unique. And maybe it is. And you know what? If it is, still it'll work. It could be the most unique fucking situation that nobody's ever experienced, which is not true. But even if it is, yeah, worth it. Yeah, totally. Go for it.
So last question, is there anything else you think is there anything else based on anything that I've not asked that you think would be valuable, you think people would want to hear? Is there anything else you'd want to add that you think would be just valuable in some way? that's on you that you think you'd want to say? Anything else you want to express? That someone might get value from?
That
Or
somebody might get value from.
did I miss anything?
No, you didn't miss anything, but I guess somebody who's watching, no matter how bad you're hurting, no matter how hopeless you feel that your situation is, um, if you follow this process, if you invest in yourself, if you love yourself enough to invest in yourself, or the other way around, invest in yourself because you will love yourself. It'll be so worth it. And you don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to be in pain, and your situation is not hopeless. You don't have to keep hurting, and things can turn around in ways that you never conceived of. There's stuff that's in the works for me right now that I never even conceived of. Like I couldn't imagine it. It would be like asking God for something in prayer and God going, "Oh, girl, I got something so much better that I couldn't even have thought of in prayer." So yeah.
That's a great analogy.
Mhm.
And I think it's that phrase, God gives you what you need, not necessarily what you want. But you
But
find out that what you get is really what you really, it's what serves you. But I think that's how the phrase goes.
but it turns out God also has now given me more than I want.
Hmm.
Keep in mind, I was clinically depressed. If anyone knows what that's like, I'm sure I don't seem like it now, and I'm not.
So then, okay, one last little question here. At this point, I have to ask you, with your background, do you do you still subscribe to the idea of depression?
Um,
Being that you said you would say before you were clinically depressed, after what you've experienced now, did it seem that maybe you had a muscle you never worked out before, so to speak? That's kind of the way I'm asking.
oh,
Yeah. So
yeah.
do
Yeah,
you really
yeah,
still
yeah.
believe in depression, or would you tell people? And again, this is not for every. We'll just say for the vast majority, perhaps not everybody, but would you say there's a possibility there's a muscle you never worked out before?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's my
Absolutely.
question. It's just so I
Yeah.
consider, because I have to be very careful the way I speak to people from a
Mhm.
legality perspective, and like even like when I talked to you in the beginning, I know your background, so I said, Bonnie, I mean, if you had small muscles and you never worked them out before, would you tell people you have small muscle syndrome? I mean, that's not fair. So I'm just saying, this is what I say to everybody: is it possible that maybe, just maybe, you had a different type of muscle you never worked out before? So this is awesome for you because you have the psychology background. You use the words, I was clinically depressed. So I'm saying, after you experience what you experience, do you really believe in depression
No,
in the way you were taught?
no, no. Depression was a muscle that I worked out a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And with that muscle being worked out, all of a sudden, voila, ta-da, depression doesn't exist anymore.
You got so I stopped working out the depression muscle and I started working out lots of other much more beneficial muscles.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Exactly. And
Yeah.
so therefore, it's no different than having atrophied muscles that you never work out. So you just did now you did what you had to do. Now you're good.
Yes. And it's not a magic trick.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
no,
not
no,
like
definitely not a magic trick. Yeah.
there's rock solid, as you and I both know,
Mhm,
rock solid science, fucking brain science behind this.
mhm.
Yeah.
Ooh,
It's it's not an esoteric bullshit. It's science. It's science based. Your whole thing is.
okay, perfect, perfect. So actually, one last little question here. So on that note, a lot of people when they first speak to me and I give them pricing, they think it's expensive, and I say, you have no idea how hard I work and what this is. Looking back, value wise, again, for some people they think it's a lot of money when they hear the number, but value wise for what you got, the effort I put into you, like giving you your all, like making sure you get that outcome. What would you tell people as far as the value, like for the price?
It's like it's ridiculous. Like you can't put a figure on it. I think uh I, if how do I say, it is worth multiples of what you charge.
Mhm.
You can't put a price on the rest of your life fucking working and being good, and you knowing how to do life moving forward in a way that serves you and is based on freedom and is based on love. How can you put a price tag on that? It's like the same as asking, oh, how much money is this life worth?
Mhm.
How much money is your life worth? And so what you charge is piddly. If you there, there is no, I mean, it's nothing compared, it's so worth it.
Yeah,
It's so worth
I
it.
think that some people are just so used to price shopping, and they
It's
see the yeah, I'm like you know I'm like thinking of something like you just don't get it. That's why I say like this is not this is what it is for a reason. But I think I mean I personally think it's incredible value for what they're getting. So
yeah,
it's like, but it's
yeah,
nice to hear from someone else.
yeah. And I would have paid so much more. I
Mm.
would have. I would have. I mean, you can't know the end result. You can't know the end result, in advance. But 100%, I would say, make the investment in yourself. It's worth it.
Wonderful.